it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing a video all about book writing. So for those of you who are new here, hello and welcome first and foremost, but also you would not know that I have been working on a book for these past few months. I started kind of outlining it in January and I have been going strong working on it ever since. Writing a book has been a lifelong dream for me. I was a huge writer before I was ever a reader, so the fact that I'm finally not putting off writing a book anymore is huge. But that book has been nicknamed Book of Sisters. That's not the title, it's just something easy to refer to it by, and I've been giving you guys updates on it frequently in reading vlogs, in all other videos, on all of my social media, especially Twitter and Instagram. Basically, if you follow me anywhere, then you know that this has been happening because I've been so excited about it and I've been really enjoying keeping you guys up to date with my progress. You guys also seem to really be liking keeping up with how it's going and watching my journey, so I decided to make a little video series on it. This is kind of inspired by Christine over at Poland Bananas Books. She has been writing a book as well, which is going to be published very soon, and I'm so happy for her. And she did a whole series as she was writing the book, and it was tons of fun to watch. So I'm going to be borrowing this idea here. I've done one video on writing before, and it was a Q&A, and I honestly don't remember what questions I answered, but today I'm going to be doing another Q&A, so hopefully I don't answer the same questions, though I'm sure inevitably there's going to be some repeats. But before we dive into the Q&A, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about what Book of Sisters is about. So Book of Sisters is a YA fantasy novel, and it follows 3 sisters, but it focuses on the one sister, which is the youngest sister. It is not in any way related to my real life. I am also the youngest of 3 sisters, but it is entirely fictional. I cannot stress that enough. But it's a story about the main sister. I haven't told you any of their names yet. I've only told you one name, and that is Maddox, but I will tell you that the protagonist's name starts with an E, so we will refer to her as E for right now. E's family means the world to her. They are the most important thing in her life, but she's also very stubborn and headstrong despite the fact that she's so intelligent, and sometimes, unfortunately, her stubbornness ends up getting her stuck in some sticky situations, which is how the book begins. It starts with E making a terrible mistake that ends up affecting not only her, but also her siblings and her whole family, and she ends up being stuck in a castle, having to reveal this huge secret she's been keeping for her entire life, and she finds herself trying to fix a mess that has been unraveling over many years. I'm still keeping things pretty vague, I'm sorry about that, but this is a very character-driven novel, so it's really E's story as she is trying to make up for the mess that she has caused. In addition to that, the story has a lot to do with languages. That is a huge part of the plot, and that's all I'm gonna really say about it. You might also know that a couple of weeks ago I ended up starting a contemporary project as well. So that contemporary project is one that I'm not telling you guys too much about, but it is the story of the main character M, and it's a story of her finding herself, and it's really a romance, but it's not really a traditional romance because she's not falling in love with a guy or a girl. She is falling in love with herself. She's learning to love who she is and survive in the world on her own. So I'm hoping to pursue a traditional publishing route with both of these stories. Book of Sisters is my main focus right now. I'm almost done it. I am 64,000 words into it, which is crazy to say, and I'm thinking I will be able to finish it by the time I go home because I'm not home right now. I didn't mention that, but I am currently in California visiting my sister for the month in order to get some writing done while she's at work, and it's been really helpful. I've been taking weekends off, but basically every day I have been surpassing 2,000 words. Like yesterday was my best writing day yet at 2,600 words, which is crazy. I was so happy with that, especially because the day before I didn't hit my word count, so it was nice to come back really strong. I've only just started my contemporary project and I've kind of been outlining it a little bit. I wrote the first chapter, but now I'm kind of going through and really tweaking things and seeing what I want the story to be, but Book of Sisters is 100% the main project of my mind. But I've been talking about those things for long enough, so let's now dive into the questions. So I went on Twitter and consulted you guys, and the first question actually comes from my dad. But he asked, why would you not concentrate on one book at a time? Do you just get a thought and away we go? This is a really good question, and the reason that I'm not concentrating on one book at a time right now is because the contemporary project was just really racking my my brain. I couldn't fall asleep for like hours one night because I kept on thinking about it, and the story kept on unfolding in my mind, and all of these little threads that I had been waiting forever for them to connect were finally coming together. And I think especially with the contemporary project, I had to just start writing it, and now it hasn't been bugging me as much. I'm super excited about it still. Like, I'm so excited about both of these books, but I don't feel like I'm not telling a story that needs to be told. So for me, I kind of had to start it in order to be able to fully focus on Book of Sisters. The interesting thing with my contemporary project is that I was kind of like, okay, you need to stop procrastinating. You're done school now. You have no more excuses. You need to finally write the book. And initially, the book that I had said I was going to start off with is the contemporary project that I have now started with. But I hadn't really realized when I said, oh, I'm gonna write this story, that I didn't really have a story there. I had the seed of an idea, but there was no real story to tell. So I was kind of racking my brain trying to come up with ideas, and I was like, you know what, it's just not happening. So then I ended up moving on, and Book of Sisters is what I ended up starting. But now that idea has finally like found its way, which is awesome, but Book of Sisters is never what I initially set out to write, because I've always written contemporary. I've never written a fantasy before, so I'm so out of my realm in so many senses of the word, but I'm enjoying it so much. The next question is, how do you keep writing? I write 10 words or 10K and then I give up. And there's really no easy answer to this. The way that I keep writing is that I feel like I have a promise to uphold to myself. I can distinctly remember when I decided I wanted to be a writer. I was in the 4th grade and I had never really excelled at anything, and then I handed in my writing project and my teacher just had such glowing feedback and was like, this is amazing. And after that I was like, this is something that I love doing. It's something that I had tons of fun doing. Like, I was supposed to write like 4 pages and I ended up writing like a 60-page Halloween story for that. I wish I could find it, and I hope that we still have it, because like that's where I knew, like I can literally pinpoint that moment. So I feel like I have an obligation. I don't know how old you are in grade 4, like 8 or something, I don't know, but I feel like I have an obligation to my childhood self to at least try and achieve this dream. And it's really hard because I'm so worried about failure, as anyone would be. Like, I'm my own biggest critic. Every other writer is. I'm not a unicorn there, but like I'm like, I think this is all crap, but you know what, at least I'm writing. So I think you just kind of have to train your brain to be like, not every word I write is going to be Shakespeare. Not every word I write is going to be even good. It might be bad, but it's better than nothing. But to add to that, it's okay if some days you do write nothing. Not every day the words are going to be flowing. Like I said, the day before yesterday, I didn't meet my word count goal for the day, and that was okay. I recognized the fact that I wasn't in the story today. I wasn't able to get into the world, and I would just come back with a fresh mind the next day. And that ended up really working out because I wrote a ton. So you just kind of have to listen to yourself and push yourself as far as you can go to get some words down. You can always fix it later. Next question is, what are your favorite writing snacks and drinks? And I don't really like to snack while I'm writing because I can't multitask. Like, I can't eat and write at the same time. I don't know, that's weird, but you guys know me. I really love to have some coffee or really any hot beverage, but like this is an empty coffee, which is really sad and tragic. But if it's late at night, I like to have hot chocolate or decaf tea. Like, anything that's hot, I like to have when I'm writing. How/when/where do you find the time to write? This kind of is like the previous, like not the last question, but the question before that. I think what really helped me was realizing that no one is going to hold me accountable except for myself. And I'm really, really bad at holding myself accountable. If there's no one that is like expecting me to do something, then it takes me a lot longer to do it. So that's why I usually get my videos up all the time, because I know that there's people out there who are expecting it. So I think to a certain extent, I feel like a lot of you guys are expecting me to finish this story in a timely manner, and that's good. Like, that's not a bad thing at all, because it puts the pressure on me to dedicate myself to it and just make sure that I am holding myself accountable. Because honestly, in the end, the person that I'm letting down the most is myself, and I obviously don't want to let myself down. So like, I just try and find the time and the energy anywhere that I possibly can. And like I said, skipping days is okay. You don't have to write every single day, as long as you're trying, and maybe like start off with 1 day a week and then 2 days a week, and then eventually you can have a certain time every day that you're writing. So make it kind of like an office hour sort of thing. Writing is what I want my career to be, so I think that's been a little bit easier for me, because I'm like, okay, this is when I'm working, like these are my work hours, and then after that I have some free time. But that's not to say that I don't spend a ton of time procrastinating, because I really do, and I'm really really awful for that, but I find that self-imposed deadlines are really, really helpful. I so wish that I had an agent already, but I haven't gotten to that step yet of trying to find an agent. I will hopefully be there soon, but I wish I had an agent so then they could be like, okay, I want edits for now, or I want like the thing for now, like written thing. Why are words so hard? Says the person who's talking about writing her book. I swear I'm so much better on paper than I am like talking. But I have set some deadlines for myself and I have been using the program Pacemaker. I'll link it down below for you guys, but Adam Silvera had tweeted it out and it basically gives you like, you have to write this many words this day to reach your goal. It's kind of hard for me to explain, but it has been super, super helpful with writing. I write on Scrivener and I can set like my project deadline and target and stuff, and that is also really, really helpful. So that will literally, as I'm writing, be like, congratulations, you passed your goal for the day. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Woo! Next question is, where did the idea for your new contemporary spark? Did it come from a real experience or did it just fall into your mind? The idea definitely came from a real experience. It's fictional still, like it's very, very fictional, but it did come from something I had gone through in my life. Are there any Canadian idiosyncrasies included in Book of Sisters? Bagged milk perhaps, or a very apologetic character, etc. There aren't really any in Book of Sisters. I actually really do like the idea of including a really apologetic character. I think that would be amazing, but in my contemporary, the main character is Canadian, so there is definitely Canadian rep there. Next is, did you go through a lot of name changes with your main characters? I can never settle on a name for projects I work on. I think I was literally 30,000 words into Book of Sisters when I decided I didn't like the main character's name and I ended up changing it to what it is now, and now I love it, but I was never really entirely sold on it, and then I realized that the names of the three sisters combined sounded like the name of someone, like a real famous person, and I was like, no, I can't do that. So then I ended up changing it and now I love it. It's really hard to name characters. I think it's so difficult. It's one of the most difficult things, but it's also fun at the same time. How do you get a kernel of an idea to actually be a big enough idea to have a whole book about? Even with Book of Sisters, it was just a tiny idea that sparked this whole story, and I think what you need to do is have that tiny idea and be like, okay, which ways can this go? And kind of write down different ways that it can go and then explore those routes and see where the story leads you. I think honestly it just comes to thinking about it a lot, like just constantly having it in your brain, because you never know when inspiration will strike. Next question is, do you start writing knowing how the story is going to end, or do you let it evolve as you write? My answer to this is a little bit of both. So I started Book of Sisters knowing a key part of how it will end, but there was much more to the ending that evolved as I wrote, and the way that you got there definitely evolved as I wrote. Next question is, what do you write in? Word, Google Docs, or something else? And I had mentioned this earlier in this video, but I write in Scrivener, but I also do use Google Docs. I really thrive on feedback, so I have like a bunch of beta readers that I've sent it out to, so I use Google Docs for that purpose, but I write directly in Scrivener and then just copy and paste it into Google Docs. How much planning went into each story? Did you pants most of it? And pants means that you just kind of like went with it and wrote. Now I did a little bit of planning. Like when I first went to write my novel, I was like, wait, how do you actually write a novel? Because my creative projects have always been really short and I have always just written them, like just had this idea in my head, like teeny tiny idea, and then I just write it and see where it goes. I've never planned it, never really brainstormed or anything. I never liked doing that, even when they would have you do that in like creative writing classes, I was like, no thank you. But then with my essays, I would always outline quite a bit. So I was like, what do I do? Like there's so much conflicting information out there with outlining, and it's honestly because writing is such a personal process. What works for me might not work for you. So I did a little bit of outlining. I started with the snowflake method. I will link that down below as well, the website where I found that, and I didn't do the entire thing. I just did as far as I needed to go, and then I did honestly just a full like bullet point list of everything that was going to happen. And then I got to like, I want to say about halfway through, and then I did another bullet point list because I felt myself kind of slowing down and I knew I needed to revisit that and see where the story was going to go to steer it in the right direction. The next question is one that I've been getting a lot, and it's one that I think is kind of funny because I never expected to get it, but it's, will your book be available in the US? And it will be, I'm hoping. Most books that get published in Canada are also available in the US. I want it to be available worldwide, and honestly I think I'm going to pursue publication in the US. I just think there's more opportunity for me there, so that's just how I would like to go. So the answer to that that question is yes. Next question is, what is the hardest or challenging thing you had to deal with when writing? There's a number of things. Definitely turning off my inner critic has been really difficult. I think with Book of Sisters, the most difficult thing for me has been the fact that it's entirely fantasy, so I can't use any of the like pop culture references that I would normally use. Like there's a lot of times when I'm writing and I'm like, oh, this would be like the perfect time to reference this, but it just obviously doesn't work because it's fantasy. So that's why writing Book of Sisters is also helpful, because I can include those there. But I honestly think turning off my inner critic and accepting the fact that this isn't going to be perfect. It's a first draft. It's not going to be good. That's just how first drafts go, and I can fix it later. That has been the hardest thing because I constantly want to fix it like right away as I'm writing, but if I did that, I would never get it done. How did I come up with the idea for Book of Sisters? It was kind of inspired by recent events in the news, and it made me think back to history, which I then applied to a fantasy setting. I was honestly opening up a can of water chestnuts to chop for spinach dip, so that is exactly when the idea hit me. So that was actually the last question that I was going to answer. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys are excited to read my writing, and I hope one day you will be able to read it. I'm so excited to go out and like try and find an agent and stuff and just go with the publication process. I'm hoping it's going to work out. I'm just really happy that I'm finally doing this. It's really weird. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you would like to see from this writing series. I think I'm just going to be updating you guys with like where I am, what's going on, all that stuff. I'll do it like once a month, every 2 weeks. I don't really know. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. I put up new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can also click that little bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. You can also follow me on all of my social media. Like I said, I give tons of updates for my writing there, so that's definitely where things are happening in real time. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!